Thank you for joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
And you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Chris, we are recording August 23rd, which is the same day this episode is going up. Is that date right?
Yep.
You know, I know that date right because today is our open house at the new facility.
And day one of Shide's Diesel Extravaganza 2019.
That's right. Good planning.
I just got to say, the ladies in the office, they've worked so hard planning what they're planning at our new facility, but they really fucked up because I'd rather be in Indiana right now. I'm death staring you as you're laughing at me.
I definitely enjoy seeing all of the videos from Shides.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know that I anymore need to be there.
I like being in the videos.
Sure.
Of Shides.
Get rowdy with it. Yeah. Absolutely. So Shides is going on. That's a huge deal across the country.
Long running event.
Yeah. I don't know that it's the longest or anything like that.
One of.
I will say it's one of the biggest ones of the year.
Yep.
So if you're in the Midwest, and I know people travel from all over the country and even Canada to go to that, they're going to be sled pulling. They do drag races at Shides still?
Yeah. Eighth mile. Yep.
Eighth mile. Yeah. A lot will be going on over there. Dyno, of course, and everything else. We do have a few other things going on here in-house that I thought we would take just a real quick chance to talk about. Roxor, Mahindra Roxor. I don't think a lot of guys know that this vehicle is out there. It's a side-by-side UTV. I guess it's more, you would recognize it as an old Jeep Willys.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. is what it is. They've just hit the U.S. market in the last year or two. They're a 4-cylinder diesel turbocharged common rail injection.
Badass.
It's just kind of a badass little utility vehicle.
That makes all bit of 54, 52 horsepower stock to the wheel.
Yeah. So a little disappointing when you drive
It's
them.
thrilling. 45 mile an hour limiter out of the gate.
Yeah.
It is. 5-speed manual. They have an automatic as well now.
Yeah, that just came out.
Yep.
So cool little vehicles. We jumped on. We grabbed one. We put a tune on it right away. Yep. Turns out double the horsepower.
Yep.
Literally double the horsepower.
Literally double the horsepower. Like you said. Literally.
And then, of course, we also had to throw a South Bend clutch behind it because it wasn't going to hold on that 5-speed manual. So that was a little rough. But once we got the clutch in there, it was holding power great. It was doing it. I really thought we were kind of done with this project. Nick and the rest of the team did not.
No. They are not done. The Roxor has been consuming one of the lifts in the shop now for the last week and a half, tinkering, doing some things. There's a lot of really exciting things. I guess, we can kind of, we're not going to talk about numbers, right? But we are going to talk about, some of the parts.
Absolutely, yeah. So turbo drop-in, tested.
Stealth RX.
RX41, yeah.
Done. What about injection pump? What do we got going on there?
CP3. Oh, Exergy, hook it up with R&D pumps, no problem.
Go figure.
CP3,
Exergy
done.
back at it again. So a CP3 conversion, converting it from whatever the hell that injection pump is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Sure.
A
pump.
That's pretty cool.
Right.
We've done a lot of testing with intercooling, exhaust systems.
Yeah.
A lot of really cool stuff. What I think is surprising, if you will, is we talk about airflow and we talk about efficiency and the bigger engines, like a 6.6, the factory intercooler pipes, they flow well. They come from the factory
real
with,
well.
A 3 or 3.5 inch exhaust system, for the most part. And then you get this Roxor. It has like an 1.5 inch size exhaust.
Yeah, it's
rough. It's rough. And it's crazy how you can just open up the exhaust, open that up, and then you pick up 10, 15, 20 horsepower.
Sure.
So really excited. I know anytime when we see Nick around the office running around and he's pumped on something like that, I don't want to say it's rare, but when you see it,
it usually means you want to get keys.
Yes. So he's been super pumped. We're going to be, doing some power, releases and whatnot here shortly, probably the next upcoming few weeks or something along those lines. So look out for that. But
yeah, really
exciting, new, unique platform.
Well, what I thought was cool about the Roxor is when you first kind of get introduced to it, you're like, oh, this is a wild vehicle. Is this like, a clone kit or what is this? And blah, blah. And you end up talking about a lot of other things. But it was, once we looked into the mechanics of it, we're like, oh, this is really inside of our wheelhouse.
Yep.
Like we get, this is what we do. And then I was cruising through the parking lot last week and I spotted something that I thought, hey, you don't belong here. and I saw him playing with it. That bright blue 2019 Raptor, man.
Yeah,
I was rather shocked to see it out there and to see some testing going on with it. Yeah. I thought that was pretty exciting.
So for the listeners here, Ford offers an F-150 EcoBoost 3.5 liter turbocharged. And then they have this Raptor, which is this badass version of the F-150 with this crazy suspension setup and off-road package. And this is something that, we've been playing around with for some time. My dad has an older EcoBoost F-150, a 2012, 2013 that Nick tuned. We have a couple buddies that have F-150s that Nick's tinkered with. But I think we're going to be offering some support here shortly to dealers and end users on the F-150 and other EcoBoost platforms.
Yeah.
So really exciting. Definitely a little out of our wheelhouse. We've always offered GM gas tuning for most applications from 99, 98, all the way through 2018, 2019. And now to get into Ford gas tuning, it's definitely odd. The truck definitely runs its ass off. They have 10-speed automatics in those 19 Raptors.
Right.
Crazy, so many gears, so many shifts. So working with like skip shifts and things like that, and just the power delivery and some of the other bolt-on components, intercooler pipes, intercoolers, intakes, catback exhaust systems, down tubes. A lot of cool stuff that we've been tinkering with over the last month here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's going to be a fun truck to drive. I think that's one of those that like you're going to drive it stock. You're going to be like, man, I got a really great truck, which they are from everybody's reporting. But then I think you're going to do some of those basic kind of stage 1 mods that we're really see a lot of, and I think guys are going to go nuts for it. I think it's going to be that same kind of feeling of it's a whole new vehicle. And speaking of whole new vehicles, 2020 Duramax just landed on the lot. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm going to get ridiculed for this, so I'm just going to keep my comments to myself.
That means you like it.
No. You know what? I don't care. That's one of the ugliest trucks I have honestly seen. We have a couple guests in the house, that are coming, for the open house or whatever. So they've been in the office the last couple days. Shout out to everyone that's, coming in the town to hang out with us instead of going to Shides. But the one gentleman, his name's John. John made a really good comment, and that was, it's amazing what a set of wheels and tires will do to a truck. I'm on all the L5P forums and, all these things, and guys are starting to get these trucks and they're starting to put wheels and tires. Wheels, tires, and tints will make anything in. Because the way the truck comes from the factory, the way it looks, like that would not be my first choice.
So the first thing I said is I see the lines of where engineering push the truck to say, hey, here's the limits. That front grille being that wide and that flat, that's about air.
Yeah,
it's about, you got to get cold air in. Rod Romaine, Nicola Menarini, all these guys, these chief engineers of major HD programs, they all told us the same thing. You got to get air in. Air is one of the biggest challenges we have for emissions equipment. So you get the air in. So there, I would imagine that there's some sort of discussion of, here's how wide the truck is. Here's how much air we need in.
Yeah, when you look at the taillights on the sides are very thin. They're only an inch or two thick.
And I think a lot of that truck came down to things like that. I also noticed little things like get past the climb-in tailgate and the lights and the grill and things like that. Guys are going to go nuts for that stuff.
There's a lot of very cool trick things like that the tailgate portion I like. The step sides on the bed, I'm thinking about my ignorant ass friends, like going to step in there and scratching the truck.
Oh, like definitely going to get belt buckle scratches there. Yeah.
Oh God.
But the wheel wells, did you notice the wheel wells in the beds? That's the least intrusive wheel well I've ever seen in a full-size truck bed.
Yes. I also don't like, though, the reflectors in the wheel well.
I think as soon as it's dark out, you're going to be like, all right, that looks dope.
No. And then the mirrors. There's guys taking mirrors off of like the 2015 through 2019 and putting them on their 20s.
Right.
Because those mirrors, man, I don't know. I don't like new body styles ever. Like, I like the new Ram body style just because not much changed from the 4th gen to the 5th gen. So I'm like, that looks good. I like that. But the Fords I haven't really seen much on, but it's something that I think over time will grow on me.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I would no. No.
I felt like the facelift it got from 2019 to 2020 was better than the facelift they got in 2014 to 2015.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Hands down, look-wise, the 2015 to 2019 body style is nasty. I like when the L5, when the 17 came out with the hood scoop.
Yeah.
Sold, loved it.
Same here. 17, that 15 and 16 model. They're just not my favorite front ends.
Wow.
And I love LMLs. I mean,
I know you do.
That's my thing.
I would have to say two things here. Number one, I would take a 15 16 style over the 20. Okay.
Wow.
And it'll grow on me over time.
Sure.
But what I will also say is how the 11 to 14 LML, now that the 20 is out, just becomes a little more dated.
It does.
Now that's the classic
Do you
LBZ,
remember when that was
bubble
like?
nose. That was the thing.
When it came out, it was like, oh shit.
Yep.
Like, oh shit, it's here.
Yep. So, the new era, the new wave of trucks, big power, big torque. We read about them in the magazine 6 months ago with, their tow tests and the torque war going to town of who's going to make the most torque. Not horsepower, it's the torque these trucks are making. It's insane. The new 2020's got a 10-speed Allison.
I know.
What? 10-speed Allison? But, it's going to be exciting. Nick's a little overly territorial at the moment.
Yeah, he locked it in the parking lot. We were going to take photos. He locked it. I was like, bro, what if I want to do an under the hood shot?
Yeah, he said,
what if I need to park it?
Get out of my truck. It's my truck.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
Like, damn, dog.
Was not surprised.
No, but I don't blame him. It's nice to have new things. So it'll be, expect to hear, some stuff going on there, some testing, some R&D, see what the differences are. What does the ECM have now in 2020 that the 17 and 19s do or do not have?
I can't wait to see
the
what
transmission.
Some of the
They're already talking
are.
about pulling the trans out.
Yeah.
To kind of go in it and kind of, see what's going on. So really cool, really excited. It's just a new platform.
Still just a bunch of kids tearing their mom's VCR apart.
Yeah, 100%.
What's in here?
Still not our money.
Good stuff. Hey, guys, WC Fab brings us our From Facebook segment. Today, I thought I grabbed a really good one for us, Chris. It says, me and my buddies have been having a debate on daily tow, pull, drag trucks all around, traction bars versus Caltrax. Also, hard debate between us in a single 10 mil or 12 mil versus dual stock pumps. Any insight available?
Man, I've been down this road before a time or two.
So let's break it apart. So I'll let you answer first on traction bars or Caltrax.
Okay. Caltrax are amazing in a street truck application, going to the track, going to the drag strip. Sled pulls, I've never done it with Caltrax. I'm sure they do just fine. The downfall with Caltrax, in my opinion, is the way they preload the spring. You have a very aggressive ride.
Yeah.
It's very stiff. When I had it on I had Caltrax on my 07, it was rough. It was rough. I enjoyed it. They did what they were supposed to. But once you you set it up to relieve tension, on the spring itself, it's a very bumpy, hard ride.
Yep.
For sled pulling, we've always done traction bars. For ride quality, I would say traction bars.
Agreed.
So
Caltrax, here's my thing on Caltrax. Like, on the right truck, they're the right fit.
Yeah, no.
But other than that, you want to be checking out, like, WC Fab.
Yeah.
They make a great set of traction bars, I think you can get behind those.
It's crazy to me when you drive, like, a truck with traction bars on the street. They definitely help prevent wheel hop. They definitely help, prevent any
axle wrap,
anything like that. With the Caltrax, like, my truck was, my 07 was a two-wheel drive. And when you would hit it, you would feel the ass end go down, and the Caltrax kept the ass down. It kept the ass planted.
Right.
The traction bars, you're not going to get that.
Yeah.
So it depends on the application, like you said.
Fair enough. All right, and then I guess I'll jump in here first. And hard debate. I love that. Between a single 10 or 12 mil versus dual stock pumps.
This isn't even a hard debate.
I am a cheap fuck, and I would do a single pump.
The costs are almost the same, Paul.
Well,
they are.
No. Here's why. You have to go and buy the second pump in this assumption. If you have parts on your shelf, this is a different story. But if I'm going to buy the second pump, I'm not going to buy a stock pump. So now I'm already buying at minimum a Sportsman pump. Okay. So what's the difference in cost between like an Exergy Sportsman and a 10 mil?
Well, a new pump and dual fueler setup is going to be anywhere from $200 to $2,300.
Yeah.
Okay. A 10 mil pump's $2,000. A 12 mil pump's $2,500. So what's the power output? So pricing is similar.
Yeah.
To it. I mean, for the most part.
Well, and this is
the power output plays a role too.
Right. So power output, sure, because if you want to do, something stupid, right? Over a few thousand now with a 14 mil pump out there. So yeah, if you really want to go nuts with it, you have to have it. But I would assume if your discussion is 10 mil, you're in the 10 mil horsepower range.
Yeah, I mean,
right? Like if you're going for a 10 mil horsepower range, why put the extra parts on? Why put the extra stuff on there? Why not just do a 10 mil pump and be done with it? It's less shit to go wrong. It's less shit to figure out, and it's extremely reliable. So in those situations, it's like you're talking about an engine build, right? Because 10 mil pump, you're going to run it up probably to the edge or near the edge of your short block anyways. Like really, if you're going to go over that, you're $25K into an engine build to start with. So price can't be the concern then. It just has to be a horsepower thing.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time I would have to say going and building in stages and spending and building within your means too.
Yeah.
If the guys, have, we'll break it down here. A 10 millimeter pump, you're generally good for 750, maybe 800 horse, right?
Sure.
12 mil pump, you're generally going to be good for around 950. I've seen some trucks crack 1,000, but I would never sell a 12 mil pump to crack 1,000.
Yeah.
Consistently.
I'd go into the 14 mil streets.
14 millimeter pump, then, that's 1,000 plus pump. And then dual stock pumps, if both pumps are healthy, you have 1,100 horsepower worth of fuel volume. Where I stand is, like you said before, simplicity. I don't like another pump on the truck. The added pump isn't the problem. It's the added lines, potential for leakage. It's the dual fueler controller. At that point, guys, like if you're running dual fuelers on a truck and you're daily driving, working the truck, make sure that you spend money on an additional dual fueler controller. Make sure you have the proper serpentine belt, have a spare on hand so you're not stranded having any issues.
And you have to know how to work on it.
Yep.
Like it has to be you.
So those are the big things. Now for the guys that are like, hey, I want to make 700 horse now, 800 horse now, but you know what? Another year or two when that motor lets go, I want 1,200 horse. I want 1,000 horse.
That's
I
cool.
want to build a bad
you could buy a
motherfucker.
dueler.
No,
like a
then what you do is you just buy a stroker pump, put it in the pump, put it in the truck, keep the stock pump, set it on the shelf, and when you go to do the motor, just buy a dual fueler. You have the second pump, you're done. And that pump that has miles on it is now externally out of the valley if it's a Duramax, or it's a second pump up top on a Cummins. So it's easily accessible in the scenario where, well, let's face it.
If it does fail.
If it fails, it's
right?
there. So
yeah, I'm with you. I love it. Awesome, guys. Well, hey,
single pump lives matter, guys.
Getting into Exergy Performance's diesel story this week, we're going to bring on our producer, Justin Tyson. He's going to read us the story, and then Chris and I will talk a little bit about it.
I just bought a brand new 2019 Ford F-250 Power Stroke. While I mostly drive the truck back and forth 20 miles or so to work each day, I do throw a small trailer on in the summer and take my LS Swap 97 Corvette to the track as many weekends as I can. This weekend, I agreed to pull a 26-foot enclosed trailer for work. It'll be loaded down with construction equipment, and I'm sure I'm going to be at or just over the rated limits of the truck. We're going to do a job 6 hours away, and I'm a little nervous about the truck handling the abuse of this trip. So I swung into the local diesel shop, and they said if I drop it off tomorrow, I can pick it up 2 hours before we leave for the trip. They said I absolutely need an exhaust, intake, lift pump, intercooler, and pipes, and a few other things. The bill is sickening, but I don't really want to be broke down.
Okay.
Chris, I feel like this is something that I've heard in like kind of a sob story and like post facto, right? Like, oh, this is what happened and this is why I modded my truck. Was I was really, really scared about the truck breaking down. So I took it to the first guy I talked to and I paid him an exuberant amount of money and he threw all these parts in my truck and now he says it's bulletproof.
I like that word.
Exuberant.
Never heard of that before. I'm going to start using that. Honestly, that's cool. No, you do, and I mean, let's face it. Paul, you have a long history of being in a sales role at many companies and
Sure.
things like that. There's no secret. Myself, I'm in a sales role here at Calibrated as well. You run across people that are extremely persuasive.
Yeah. And I think we also like being in sales. I've run across people who have no idea what they're doing and they're willing to pay any money because they have no idea. And so you don't know who you're talking to. My thing that like anytime I've ever dealt with people, I always encourage them, go and check this out. Here's some resources. Here's some places you can go learn about this. Or here's some facts that back up what I'm saying. It's not cut me a check and I'll let you know what the bill is,
Yeah, I mean, just to, I know that there are shop owners that listen to this. I know that there are mechanics of shops that listen to us.
Yeah.
Sorry that you listen to us, guys. But when you go to a shop and it absolutely you need the exhaust, the intake, the lift pump, the intercooler, and the pipes, and a few other things, you're deleting a brand new truck. That's shop revenue. Okay, so there is hours in this to take these parts off, put the parts on. That's where the shop's making their money. The shop's not really making much money by putting in emissions on tune and wiring a switch on the truck, right?
And I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I also think even if you set that to the side, I think if you're a shop and you have anybody come in the door and you end up with this list of things on a truck that works perfectly because they're nervous something might happen, I think we really need to evaluate what does this customer need.
Right.
And I think if you're a customer, you need to stop and think about, and you need to ask those type of questions as well. How is this going to impact me towing? The guy's got a 2019 Ford, even loaded to gross vehicle weight or over. You're pulling it 6 hours, bro. Like you're good. I mean, just to be honest with you, even in stock form, like here's a few things I could tell you that might help. Here's a few things that might be able to cut some of that nervousness away. But like, you don't need a huge bill on a 2019 vehicle just to be able to tow at gross vehicle weight.
No, I mean, honestly, I cringed as Justin was reading this because I have the guys on the phone, end users. When I go out to dinner, or, go out for a drink with a couple buddies, I'll have people come up to me, in the area, whatever, and they ask these types of questions, and you just shake your head. Simplicity sometimes goes the longest way. And I mean, on a Ford, like lift pump, no. Intake, yes. An exhaust, well, if you want the sound, I get it. There are those guys out there. I'm not taking anything away from you. Intercooler, no. Yeah, the pipe, the one intercooler pipe is plastic. They do recommend upgrading that. It's a fairly popular upgrade amongst the
whole intercooler
community. It's just, it's ridiculous.
Crazy.
It's ridiculous. So, do, like you said, Paul, do your research. When anyone comes in or they inquire about something and they have any skepticism at all, always send more information. Here you go. Here's a resource here. This has nothing to do with me, my brand, my company, myself, of what I'm recommending. These are outside sources talking about this, and this. This is another leg to stand on as to why I would recommend going this route. This isn't hearsay. Here is black and white facts.
I totally agree with you. And I think somebody else who is going to agree with us on this topic is today's guest on Calibrated Power Presents, our special guest. Today's special guest is a technical editor over at Diesel Power Magazine. He's somebody who has a lot of background and a lot of history in doing the research, finding out about the technicalities about how different parts and different vehicles work and really how they're going to impact you as a user. And he works with Diesel Power Magazine, which is a great place to go and do some of your own independent research since they do cover such good articles like this. All right, guys, and now it's time for the Calibrated Power Presents our special guest. We know this is your favorite segment of the show, and we think we got somebody really exciting to talk to today. It's the author of an editorial series called Detonation with Diesel Power Magazine, also the Torque column. You guys may recognize such articles as getting the right gear ratio, correcting the gear axle ratio for oversized tires, and the Detroit Diesel DD5, and a whole lot of other stuff with Diesel Power Magazine. John Lehenbauer, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. John, now you are the technical editor at Diesel Power Magazine. How long have you been over there?
Just about 4 years.
Okay. So you've been around the block a little bit. You've seen a couple of DPCs. You've seen some other diesel events evolve over the last couple of years. But tell us, what's your history in diesel performance?
Diesel performance, I really didn't get into a lot of diesel performance until I really got on the magazine. My history goes back, I was a fleet mechanic. So I go back to working on old Detroits and Caterpillars and Internationals, and in the fleet, you're not much on performance. Let's keep it running and keep it going. So,
Gotcha. Okay. So a lot of time wrenching then.
Oh yeah.
How'd you end up getting into like editing and writing and things like that then?
I decided I didn't want to wrench forever.
Okay.
And I mean, on a whim, I kind of applied. I had some college, so that helped me out. they never really helped me out with wrenching, but the college helped me out when I wanted to go beyond wrenching.
So you went from being a mechanic to a editor.
Yep.
Wow, that is definitely a change in career paths.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Very cool. Very
was.
cool. So you said you've been doing it 4 years now.
Yep.
Okay. Over the course of the 4 years, I'm sure you've written many articles. Is there anything that like stands out to you that you're like, that one hit home? I enjoyed this one. I learned a lot from this, like the experience itself.
I don't know one in particular. I always try with my articles, I try to be as educational as I can.
Okay.
And like the story he mentioned was the gear ratio one. It became a really, what normally with our tech articles, I don't know, they're like a page or so of text, page and a half of text and like 40 pictures. That thing ended up being like 2.5 pages of text, 70 pictures.
Wow.
And I really got into really showing what it was all about, like doing gears and doing them right. Because a lot of my history with cars and everything is off-road, like building 4x and buggies and stuff like that. And when you play with tire size, you play with gear ratios.
Of course.
And when I got into the diesel community, I mean, you go down to these shows and the guy's like, oh, I got 40s, but I still got 355 stock gears. And you're like,
that sucks.
Okay.
Right.
You just spent $10,000 upgrading your truck and you couldn't spend another $1,000 to do the gears.
Like that wasn't on a firm, man.
It was.
Bro, still tows great.
Yeah, it still does.
Yeah.
Still does a great job.
Well, and what's funny too is because I come from the West Coast. So West Coast, it's all about hills. I mean, it's nothing to go over a 3,000-foot pass just to leave Los Angeles. And you come out here and the guy goes, "Oh yeah, I pulled a hill." I'm like, "Well, how high was the hill?" "Oh, it was like 500 feet." And I was like,
"That's a big hill out here." Just to let you know,
Yeah,
that's impressive.
How were your EGTs?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, plus, I mean, being out on the West Coast, I mean, it's kind of like a culture thing. With what I deal with customer wise, it's a culture thing to lift your truck and put bigger tires on it out that way.
Oh, it's man, in the I want to say like the 90s. Oh my God, dude! Like 80s and 90s, it was nothing to see an old square body Chevy sitting on 40s.
Oh yeah.
That was the standard. I knew a lot of guys had those trucks, and most of them sold them or lowered them.
Yeah.
They got tired of like throwing a rope ladder out to get in and out every day.
Of course.
And now it's a lot better. I mean, I love all the because I laugh because like my brother's got a truck and he still has the old school loop steps.
Oh yeah.
Underneath the door. He still has a set of those, and I'm like,
wow.
Dude, that is so like 90s.
Yeah.
Still looks good.
Still looks good. I mean, with the amp research steps and everything now, with a little bit of lift, it's nice.
Yeah.
And,
well, the wheel wells are bigger too these days,
yeah.
so you're not having to lift the truck as high to put a set of 37s or 35s under the truck.
I really like you look at companies like was it AEV?
Yeah.
They have like that kit where they can on a Ram you can put like 40s with 2 inches of lift.
Yeah.
Or I'm like, that's awesome. It looks amazing because you get a lot of tire and it looks really good, but yet you're not sitting above the wheel wells.
Yep.
So
I think that's really interesting. Now, you mentioned you're the technical writer and your job title is technical editor. What does that look like on a day-to-day? What do you actually end up doing when you go into the office Monday through Friday? I mean, the magazine only comes out once a month. You just pound out an article like on the 1st through the 3rd and then take the rest of the month off?
Oh, I wish it was that easy.
That's what Paul does. Like, no bullshit.
Yeah, I wish it was that easy.
A little bit of bullshit.
Well, but I mean, a lot of your days is, you get all the emails to answer. It's the same like any business anymore. You got emails. You got a lot of projects. Things could pop up you have to do. And then a lot of times it's traveling. You say you got a month, but then you break it down like, okay, let's see, I'm gone 15 days on assignment this month, or
wow.
or somebody needs help doing this, or so it's a day shot, or I got to drive here,
Yeah.
So, and then you get a few hours here to work, or a few hours there to work. But if you stay on top of it, you can have free time. But a lot of time, when you do get the free time, then you start trying to work on projects, or you're trying to work on that next thing. Like last couple of months for me, it's been real heavy on tech projects. I've basically gone from one tech project to the next, and I've already got 2 or 3 more that I'm working on to set up.
What are some of those tech projects? What do those look like?
I just got done with one with KC Turbos. Was working with those guys. I'm out here talking with you guys. We're actually putting something together with Calibrated. And then I did we just did a transmission in an '01 Dodge. We put a RevMax tranny. I went up to 805 diesel and up in Camarillo, California, and we put a transmission in there. And that one's, and some of my projects are steps. Like we'll do one with a truck, and then a few months later we'll do something else with the truck.
So kind of like, was it Jason Sands years ago? He had the project Rust Bucket, that old first-gen two-wheel drive regular cab that was a couple years, right? And every couple months a new segment would come out. So you do stuff kind of on those lines.
You kind of do stuff like that. I mean, some of it's like with the Dodge Ram. The transmission was shot. Right. I mean, you poured the fluid out, and you could just see
it was just
clutch
brown
material coming out. It was bad. So what we were doing, it's like, okay, we got to take one step at a time. Yeah. Let's get the tranny fixed. So we put a new tranny in, and we put a built tranny. We didn't go stock. We put it built, but nothing crazy. It's a daily driver that makes good power. That's the end goal.
Yeah, something that the readers read and they can aspire to potentially, duplicate in the future.
Right. So we put a new tranny in. They cleaned out all the lines. We put a new trans cooler in. So, a good build. And then on a side note, we fixed the oil leak that was on the truck, which was the tappet cover, which is pretty typical of a 24 valve,
Oh, yeah.
So, so the next step, with that, now we have a transmission. Now we can go and we can bring the power up on that truck. You can bring it up more into a 400 or 500 horsepower truck as a daily driver, because now you have the transmission and everything to back it up. So it kind of comes in stages. You can go and, like Paul and I were talking about earlier, it's easy to throw horsepower. Well, if you throw horsepower at something, you're going to find all the weak links behind it.
Of course.
You're going to, okay, the transmission's now going. Okay, I'm blowing out U-joints, whatever it is. So try to build a vehicle in stages so it gets to that point. And like that KC Turbo project was kind of the same way with that.
Sure.
And now that truck, we started out, the first thing I did with that truck, bone stock, was sitting on 37s with stock gears. So we put like a iDash unit on it so we could read all the parameters, see what's getting hot, what's not.
Yeah.
We did some road testing with it. Then we put gears in it and road tested it again. And then I did a comparison at the end of the article to kind of show the difference. And towing a 30-foot toy hauler trailer that was loaded down, just doing gear ratios, nothing else, no power increases or everything. We were able to pull a whole gear higher on the same hill.
Oh, wow.
While accelerating.
Wow. That's fucking huge.
So the truck went from like pulling the hill in second gear, struggling to keep it around 50 miles an hour, to third gear, accelerating past 55.
The one thing I've learned, I have a black 15 twin turbo Cummins. Yeah. It has 342 gears. Okay, I've been doing some sled pulling over the last few months at the local sled pulls, and towing our gooseneck, which is about 8,000 pounds. The truck weighs another 7,500 pounds, plus a side-by-side on that truck with 342 gears. Now, the truck makes, 650 horsepower. And, it would pull it, but you had to get aggressive on the throttle. It had the power, but it was the hurdle of the gearing. Now, I never was big on or understood the value of gearing. Now you go get into our F450, which is one of the shop trucks. It's a 2017, 410 gears, similar height tires.
Right.
Truck makes 150 horsepower, 100 horse less than mine, and that truck just towed it with ease. Like it was nothing.
Like there's nothing behind it.
It's all the value of gear. And I never understood that until you experience it firsthand. So as you're saying this, like, I'm able to, go up a gear, keep going, get up in vehicle speed, and it's less stressful. It's less taxing on the drivetrain.
Like I learned gears with going back to the whole off-roading thing. Is like you get into a lot of the old vehicles. Like you look at old Willys Jeeps or old military vehicles. Yeah. They wanted lots of power. They weren't caring about freeway speeds or anything. They wanted to haul a house behind it, basically. Yeah. So, an old flat fender Willys Jeep made 40 horsepower if you're lucky.
Man,
right?
maybe.
Yeah. With a flathead in it.
Yeah.
They would have like 571 gears or like 529
and those
gears.
Those are torquey son of a bitches.
Right. Yeah. It would go right up the side of a cliff while towing a house. You know what I mean? With a little bitty dinky motor that made no power.
Sure.
Yeah. One of the ones I always laugh is if you ever look at the old Unimogs, they had some of the old Mercedes Unimogs. They had like 5 different sticks on the transfer case. and they would get you down to like 800 to 1 crawl ratio or something stupid like that if you put all the transfer cases down, because the motor made like no power.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
like a 60 horsepower motor, but they understood that.
Yeah.
So they gave you the gear ratios, they gave you the power to do what you needed to do. And it's the same when you just change your axle gear ratios. You're increasing power to the ground, you know?
And it's funny because we really don't talk about that a lot, right, Chris? I mean, that's not something that we dive into. We usually, as we start to set guys up, we work around the gear ratio. We tell them don't run the big tires because we're going to have to get into re-gearing the truck and things like that. I always like to know, and that's one of the things that I liked about your articles, is that they include a lot of that tech along with some real-world examples. So you guys seem to do a really good job of breaking it down and explaining, here's how gear ratios worked, here's how it's going to impact you, and look at this real world example.
Yeah.
I think I had a harder time understanding the difference between 355 and 410, or even just what the fuck that's measuring, to be honest, as opposed to understanding pulling in second compared to pulling in third. Right? Like, I get that. Like, even a dummy like me can understand that concept.
And like with the truck, we went to 430s with 37-inch tires on the F250. That brought us back close to stock, like what you would have been gear ratios with stock tires. We looked at going to 456s, going even lower.
Yeah.
That would have given us more pulling power. Like the truck probably would have been in a better gear range and everything else when pulling the hills. Problem we ran into, it was that balance between having power and not losing the top end.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Because you still want to be able to get on the highway and run 85, 90 miles an hour,
Exactly.
or whatever the
55,
legals
60 at this
posted.
point.
Yeah, and
speed
with
limit is.
and the truck has a 7.3, and if you know a 7.3, 3,200 RPM, you're done.
You're
It
lucky
hits
to go
road
over
limiter.
60 mile an hour at
Yes,
that point.
exactly. So it was that balance between how low do you want to go? Do you want that ton of power?
Right.
You know, but then it gets back to the old Willys Jeeps. They would pull a house, but you were 55 miles an hour, man. You were wild.
Tad.
Yeah, with a tailwind.
With a tailwind,
Right.
exactly.
So now, who sets up, or who has the ideas to set up these, whether it's like truck features, tech articles? Like, is there like a spreadsheet that you have over the course of a year, and then that's how you go about it? Is it like a
Do you
group
guys just pick out of the
conversation?
hat? Do you guys just write down random titles
how does
and
that
then
work?
pick them out of a hat?
KG and I usually talk. Sometimes he'll have stuff planned out in advance, like certain things coming up. Like if we're covering events, we know the events coming up, or we've planned things out. A lot of the stuff is I come up with the ideas. I run them across his desk, like, hey, this is what we kind of I want to do, and he's either like, well, we could do this, you know, and we'll go back and forth and we'll work it out, like how we want to do it. Sometimes it's spur of the moment. Sometimes it's something comes up and it's like, we're doing this, you know. You just got to kind of go with it, you know. It's usually a month out. You know, I know at least a month or so ahead of time what's going to be written about that month. Cool. I mean, sometimes your tech article is scheduled for you and you haven't even gone and done anything about it yet. So then it kind of gets you right down. You're getting back from the trip, which you did the tech article, and it's like it's due, you know. But that doesn't happen too often.
Chris, that's like how you operate, right?
No, I mean, I've proved it works for 5 years running. Now, how many editors do you guys have over at Diesel Power Magazine?
Just KJ and I. That's
Wow.
it. Just
Yeah,
the
that's
two of
something
us.
else. I also did not know
Wow.
that. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Now, because we see a lot of names as authors
Yeah.
and photographers and things like that, and I think my perception of the Diesel Power crew is everybody I saw working at Diesel Power Challenge. But that's not entirely accurate, actually. It turns out a lot of those guys don't work for Diesel Power Magazine. They work for Truck Trend.
Okay.
Yeah, they work for a lot of the guys are under the network.
Okay.
So they work for the company in general, but not directly for Diesel Power.
It's like a truck magazine mafia.
Yeah, or a cult.
Or a cult. Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
but like we have a few people that do a lot of stuff with us. They write articles for us and they do things for us.
Okay.
But they work on other magazines as well.
Oh, very cool.
Like
okay.
you'll see, like Jason, like you said, Jason Gonerman. He
Yeah.
used to work at Diesel Power a few years back, and now he is the editor at Truck Trend.
Okay.
So, but he still does projects. Like he has his own trucks and he does projects and he submits the articles to us.
Oh, very cool.
Things like that. And then a lot of the other stuff is freelancing.
Okay.
We have a lot of freelancers that write for us. So,
Yeah, it really fills out, because like I said, the perception was that there's this huge group, and there is. You guys have a lot of employees at Truck Trend and affiliate titles. But yeah, just two guys focusing on all of Diesel Power Magazine.
Well, I just keep thinking about, my early years getting into this stuff. Customers and end users are always like, oh, how did you learn this? What got you involved in this and that? And I have stacks of Diesel Power magazines sitting at my house since I was 17 years old, back in 2006, 2007. And, as you're talking about the technical information and, Paul saying, I don't know, there's between 454s or 354s and 410s, but learning that, reading that, learning a little hands-on, it's just there's a lot that goes into this. What you do, what you and KJ do on a month in, month out basis. To be able to get that magazine, to get it published, to get the proper content, to make sure that you're providing something that people actually give a shit about and want to read about, get those magazines. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. Hey, I thought one of the other cool things, John, is we put you behind the wheel of several vehicles, I'll just say, over the last 2 days that you've been here at Duramax Tuner. I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about some of those vehicles. So some of the ones, Chris, that we let him drive was the Hummer. So the 94 Hummer with a built 06 LBZ engine, 6-speed Allison Duramax in it. You and I took that one out. I let you behind the wheel. What'd you think, man?
Definitely different. It just has a different feel. It was interesting because I had driven some of the trucks before. I'm used to driving the pickups. I've driven new ones. I've driven modified ones. But with the Hummer, it was just a totally different feel with it. A little bit of steering wheel. You're in this little cockpit spot. And you have a little steering wheel, but it's twitchy steering. Yeah. It's like, ooh, this thing's like, okay. And then when I was gassing it, I jumped on the gas and I let off and it torque steered a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'm not used to a big heavy truck like this torque steering. I've driven
he's saying a little
before.
bit. It felt like we were about to get ripped off the road.
Plus, the thing's like 15 feet wide, and if it has a turning radius, you could just drive in circles, legit circles. That thing's just wild as far as it. Everything about that is off. Nothing's normal with that thing.
But that's the only thing caught me a little bit by surprise. You could feel the turbo. It really kicked in. That thing, it boogied.
Yeah, it rides out.
Oh, yeah.
Moves out well.
Yeah, that features our VVT 67 G2 turbo. It's got some extra G injectors in there and a 10 mil pump. So it's a pretty fun ride.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely those geared hubs feel different, too, winding up and slowing down. I feel like there's a lot of...
There's a lot of...
your drivetrain is
yes.
there.
Yeah. and that's what I always heard about Hummers. There's a lot of gear, a lot of drivetrain noise.
Yes.
But there's a lot of moving...
There's a lot of whining going on when you're in that thing, for sure.
It was so funny, Chris. We were in it, and I was telling him, I'm like, man, out of all the conversions we have, this is like the second quietest one. Like all the other conversions are super loud, and this one is like really, really comfortable. He's like, man, I can really hear that fucking driveline though, and you can just hear it whining just as much as the turbo under us. There's a few others, so we got to drive. Let's see, what else? What'd you have fun driving?
Oh, let's see. I really like the Ram.
No. Nobody likes the Ram.
Paul has this thing where he doesn't like to say anything good about me or anything that I have or whatever. What did you like about the Ram? What'd you like about the Ram?
I really like the Ram because with the compounds and everything on it, it was very smooth.
Yeah.
You hardly even noticed it was a turbocharged truck the way it drove.
I
really liked that.
I heard you were illegally speeding. You didn't realize how quick you were going?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You cannot prove that. You cannot.
I'm pretty sure.
I'll give you the politician answer. I cannot confirm nor deny those allegations.
And then you also had you also got behind the L5P. So we have that tuned L5P here, the camouflage one. You probably didn't see it when you were driving and you couldn't see it.
Such a bad joke. It's such a bad
No, it was good. It was good. It's camouflage. You get it, right?
You only can't see it online because it's digital camo.
That's like the urban camouflage, right?
Yeah, definitely. But how did that thing? You've driven stock L5Ps?
Oh, yeah. That was nice.
So what did you think? I'm sure you've driven a lot of different trucks, modified, not modified, big tire, small tire. How did that truck, how did the trucks compare? As far as, the drivability of the vehicle, how it comes into power?
Honestly, when I drove the Duramax, honestly didn't even feel it was really modified. It was so smooth, and I'm having driven a few modified trucks. As you get them, and then you feel that jolt when the turbo kicks in, or it really starts fueling, and you're like, oh, that truck was so smooth. It was like you really didn't notice, honestly, not having gotten out of a stock truck, it was not really noticeable until you really got in it and you realized, holy crap, this thing will do 100 and keep pulling.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can't prove or deny that either, though, right?
No,
You can't.
I cannot.
I mean, I think on the L5P, that is the big surprise there is I know when I've gotten in trucks that are on tune only. You sometimes, like, if you didn't get to drive it stock and you drive it with a tune, you drive it and you're like, oh, is this thing even tuned? Like, isn't this just how it should be from the factory?
Yeah.
And that's kind of that feel when you're behind the L5P and it is tuned, is you're like, man, like, this is how the OEM set it up, right, guys? Like, it's that just natural of a feeling. And then, like you said, when you start to lean on it, you really notice the power's there.
Drivability, it's not erratic.
Exactly.
That's like when we were, you were just explaining how the truck came into its power band. You see a lot of times where, guys, they, we're going to delete. You got to delete to get the power. That's not necessarily the case. But a lot of the, the younger generation, they drive of their buddy's truck or they bought a truck tuned and then they get their own truck and that truck's stock and they hate it that much more because they drove someone else's vehicle and they're impressed by the erraticness, the truck either being on or off.
Right.
That initial hit, throw you in the seat. It might not make the most power up top, but that initial hit down low is what people are like. The younger crowd, I feel, is chasing. I know I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's that throw you back in the seat
Yep.
and hold on for dear life.
Yep.
But I mean, I come from we did a lot of street racing when I was young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've been in a 12-second bug. You know what I mean?
That's a death trap.
So I've seen a lot of it, and I love that linear smooth power. Because like you said, a lot of trucks, they'll snap you back, but then they kind of fall off.
Yeah.
I've been in cars that they hit and they keep pulling all the way until you let out of the gas. But, there's a lot to those cars,
Yeah.
But for just being able to, not really get into an engine and just being able to bolt on and basically bolt on power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was really smooth. It was really nice.
And that was one of the things we were kind of talking about that I noticed you hit on there, Chris, was emissions equipped power just in general. And that's something that I know you and I and the team have kind of been talking about for the last couple days here. I know 5 years ago, the idea was you couldn't make power with the emissions equipment there. Yeah. And then I think we kind of proved, hey, guys, you could take it to like an easy 100 horsepower over stock with the emissions equipment there. And then we started having a lot of questions about reliability. Well, Chris, your truck now is 40,000 miles.
73.
Well, 40,000 miles of those with a twin kit.
40,000 miles at, 650, 670 horsepower.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we've had a twin kit on that truck for tens of thousands of miles. The L5P, we've, I don't know, a year or so.
20,000 miles on that.
Yeah, whatever. Tuned. And then we drove an F350 that's tune only, that's had the tune on it for an extended period of time as well. And all of these trucks, I actually like driving them.
Yeah.
Like I don't drive them and think, man, I really miss that sound.
I don't get into
we
them
drove
thinking,
loud trucks today and quiet trucks today. Not once did I hear you or anybody else say, man, but that one really sounded a lot louder as a good thing.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I look at it this way. 6-7 years ago, you'd get into the truck and be like, man, the DPF's going to fucking plug up today. I don't, you don't run into that. But, technology has advanced and, knowledge.
Sure.
There's a lot there.
And I think technology is where it's going to go with all of it. Like we were talking about that, you look at gas engines where they were with technology. They had all kinds of stupid stuff on them, quote unquote, to make them smog legal. And now you get up to, I mean, God, they're selling
Hellcats, 700 horsepower out of the factory.
Corvettes, Hellcats, and you're just sitting there going, oh my God, it's smog legal. And I mean, all it has is a catalytic converter. There's like no other smog equipment on these cars, and it's where that technology's come in, 20 plus years since they really started enforce, or almost 30 something years now. So they really started putting smog equipment. So, I mean, give the diesels a while. It's only been maybe 10 years?
12 years. 12 years. Oh, 7.5. I mean, technically 07.
07, yeah.
12 years in it.
That's when they really just started slapping emissions on, for lack of a better term, because it wasn't really engineered. It was just like, oh, here, we got to pass this.
This has to work.
Yeah, exactly.
How do we get an LBZ past this test?
Yeah,
I know.
Exactly. We want to keep selling all these trucks that we've built,
Well, it's funny, too, because, you look at, in the world of diesel, right, LOI Duramaxes, 6-liter Fords, I'd say they're amongst the newer the newer advanced technology style vehicles,
Right.
those probably get the two worst raps,
Yes.
right? And you look at them, the early LOI and the early 6-liter, they also have some of the biggest turbochargers out of all the RPOs.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you start to see, okay, EGR failures. So what they do with the LBZ, they went to a smaller turbocharger. What did they do with the 6-liter in 05, 06, 07? Went to a slightly smaller turbocharger. What did they do with the Fords with the 6.4s? They go smaller, Valley turbo and went with compounds. LMM, little smaller. LML, little smaller. L5P, even smaller yet.
Yeah.
So it's like they're trying to
compressor wheel sizes have been going down.
turbines
Turbine housings have been going down.
turbine wheels up.
Turbine wheels
Yes.
up, and then also EGR cooler dimensions larger and
Yes,
larger.
yes.
So they do. They're balancing this out, and we're seeing it across all the RPOs. This isn't like
No, this is
GM's not
across all
smarter
of
than
them.
anybody
Oh, yeah,
else,
yeah.
right? They're all doing this. So that's how it works. That's where the technology is going. So it's interesting to see. And as we're talking about future, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, John, what are some of the future plans you guys have over at Diesel Power Magazine? What are some of the things our listeners and your readers can be looking out for?
Well, we definitely got more tech projects coming out. I'm working on stuff like that. Really, in the near future, we got covering ODSS. We go and cover all the different ODSS drag racing events.
Nice.
And then, let me think. I don't know. I'd love to get some tech projects going.
Yeah.
I'd love to get some more. I'd love to do a vehicle or something would be awesome. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. how time is.
Well, I know you're heading over to Indiana when you leave here, huh?
Yeah, I'm heading to Shides from here.
Yeah.
You've been to Shides before?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. How many times have you gone?
This will be my third time.
Nice. You're looking forward to it, aren't you?
Okay.
It's a great time.
No, honestly, it's a fun time. It's
The Shides event's great.
The event is awesome.
If you
and
can
it's-
keep your head on straight
Yeah.
after the event is over,
Yep.
you're in good shape. You'll have a
just-
good time.
you
There's
don't
like-
have to worry about me there. I go back to the hotel. I don't.
it never fails. It's always like 90 fucking degrees and it's hot and humid as shit. And
I think that's what gets me the hardest.
yeah,
Is
Indiana heats, man. It's hot.
it can get really humid there.
Oh yeah, real mucky and thick. Yeah, no, it's definitely every time I've gone three times over the last 10 years, and the weather, man. And if it's like super hot, it ends up like raining for one of the nights, and then the next day it's shit.
Yeah.
Like it's not bad weather. It's not a bad time. It's just hot and
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
If you can keep the overcast and humidity
Yes,
down. 'Cause, like
yes.
the one year it wasn't too bad, and then the next year it was like, oh my god.
And that's one of those events like when you go to UCC, right? UCC where it's in Brownsburg, and you go to Indianapolis and stuff. There's a lot of small bordering towns, so it's like there's a lot of trucks, but it's spread across a bigger area.
Yeah.
When you go to Terre Haute, everyone's in Terre Haute. There is no cars in Terre Haute for the weekend of Shides.
Yeah.
And you will see every possible frickin' truck known to man and duplicates and triplicates of everything, man. It is definitely a sight to see, to say the least.
Oh yeah. I mean, what is it to get in? I think last year they told me at one point to get in the front gate, it was like an hour and a half wait.
Oh yeah.
To get in the
Oh
front
my
gate.
God! And there's 4 or 5 rows of vehicles going into the fairgrounds, and the main road it's like a 4-lane.
Yeah.
And both roads are just a half mile, quarter mile, 3/4 of a mile down.
Just solid.
So you get the hookup. You go in through the back entrance by the drag strip. You kind of go in there to sneak in. For media present people and things like that. I mean, you kind of have to do that.
I usually go early.
Oh, yeah.
I usually get there just before it starts and get a nice parking spot.
Yeah, you have to, man. You have
Yeah.
to. It's crazy there.
Well, I know one of the other things that you guys are working on and always working on is Diesel Power Challenge.
Oh yeah.
So Justin, our producer, and I went out to Diesel Power Challenge, covered it this year. Chris, I don't know if we'll ever actually send Chris. We keep threatening it, but I don't think we'll ever actually follow through on it.
I'm just useless.
Well, listen. Hey, it's a week in Denver doing real work, so they call in the hard workers.
I'll just say DPC is a lot of fun.
It looked like it. Unfortunately, I have my own responsibilities here, more so than Paul. So
True story. But listen, so you guys are always working on it. It's something that I think a lot of us think like, oh, clearly just when the first voting applications come out, that's when you guys start thinking about DPC 2020, right?
Well, I mean, if you go for the last after we finish covering that last coverage, what do you call it? I want to say episode, but the last magazine that covers all the DPC event, what's in the back? It's the application for next year.
Yeah. And that's it. So you guys are on it right away, because I'd assume people get that one. They're like, all right, that's it. I'm going next year, and like sending in applications to be voted on.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's it. I mean, there's a little bit of downtime, but it's always, there's little things going on. You know, we already start planning. We start upper management and, okay, what's the plan? And, I mean, KJ handles a lot of that.
Yeah.
So he's the man when it comes to doing DPC and everything that goes on with it.
He's excited about it too, though. He's really high, energy, with all of that and the planning and just talking to him. He has a lot of passion.
Oh yeah, he puts a lot. He puts a lot into it. He's helped he's tried to refine it a lot and get it real smooth operation. And I have to say, man, it went off without a hitch this year. It was nice. We had some great competitors, and I mean, what we have 4 trucks over 1,000 on the dyno.
Yeah,
so
4 over 1,000 horsepower street trucks.
Uncorrected numbers at a mile of elevation, by the way. So no big deal.
Yeah, we do big deal. Because for scoring, we combine the horsepower and the torque. Uncorrected.
Okay.
That's how we score.
Uncorrected.
So that means that 1,000 horsepower up there, just to give you a ballpark, most guys, 1,000 there is like 1,400 to 1,600 here.
Shit. That's impressive.
Yeah. That's the level of trucks we're dealing with at DPC.
I don't even know what the lowest truck was, but the lowest truck was still like healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. It was a really solid show, and it was a tight pack all the way through.
We had a great bunch of guys. Everybody got along really good, and that's what DPC is about. It's not just like who wins. It's about the whole experience and the camaraderie and everything that goes on there.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, man, it was a lot of fun. John, thank you so much for coming in and talking to our listeners. We really appreciate it. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, for today, this has been Paul.
And Chris.
Thanks for listening. On the 1st through the 3rd, and then take the rest of the month off?
Oh, I wish it was that easy.
That's what Paul does. Like, no bullshit.